Now there are friends, and there are old friends, and there are really old friends. And the three you see here are really old friends. On the left, as you look at the screen, is Albert Greutert. In between Albert and his friend Hal Taussig is Berit Greutert. They are notorious amongst idlers. Hal is notorious, period. And I thought we'd start by asking a question. How did you three ever get together?
I used to have what it was called a no-host dinner when we didn't have enough money to host a party for our guests. So before they went home, I wanted them all to have the chance to come together and have a dinner together. So we had a no-host dinner. I felt was insanely generous when I got hired the Saxon Trachten group, the costume dancers, to perform at the Hotel Kreutz where we had the dinner. And somehow or other, I'd gotten to know Albert and Berit as landladies and landlord. So I guess really I knew them before. I knew them first as as landlords, and so I'd gotten to know them. And then the person who worked with me, Fran Douglas, was like a co-owner of the company. While she boss told me she was my first employee, but she turned out that she did as much directing of me as following my directions. And she got to know Berit, and maybe we just had her stay in the apartment here. She got to know Berit. So I'm wrong. I got to know them first as landlords, but I brought them into the circle, as it were, by asking them to be to the party in the Kreutz. I don't know what year it was. Must have been about 1980. But usually they thank me for inviting them after the party. But they didn't stress thanks. They stressed the fact that, hey, it's a good party, but, and they could do better. Or they were suggesting I could do better. And so I immediately asked Berit and Albert if they would plan the party. So that's how we really got to know one another.
How about you, Albert and Berit? How did you get to know about Idle?
We rent out our apartment, and the first guest was Fran and Doug. And Hal come and visit them, and we was already good friend, and he asked me I could help him a little with the program. And I said my English is not good enough for that, and he said my un-English is exact good for the untour.
Now, Albert, how much English did you have then?
Really nothing. The only word I remember that was I love you. That I learned through many songs, English, American songs. And these first guests, Fran and Doug, they spoke only English and not German. And when they sit down outside of their apartment, I go other way at home, so I don't have to meet them. And on the end of these 2-3 weeks they stay here, I was so happy with them. So I said to friend, you are a wonderful woman, I love you. But she gets a gray face and said, oh no, Albert, I think you like me.
Now, what year was that you became an idle landlady, Berit?
That was in 1979, and in 80 I start to help out.
How many apartments did you have then?
We have only one apartment that was below, under in the first level in this house. And after we bought this new small house, and then we rent this out too.
Hal, can you give me any idea, just off the top of your head, how much money IDLE has funneled in to the IDLE Foundation? Not what other people have given, but how much money approximately has been given from the profits from IDLE?
Well, I'm taking the word of the person who now is my colleague, Elizabeth Killow, who did some calculations and said it's about a little over $4 million. I think that may include some of the money that was repaid. She's saying that's how much we loaned out, but she knows more than I, and she says it's somewhat over $4 million.
Now, Albert and Berit, tell me some of the things you've learned by having American guests.
Oh, we learned so much about this. We learned to accept everybody that was not the same like we. And we have had only good guests in all these 30 years we rent out. We have had no bad guests. So we love every American.
Now, you're really honestly going to sit there and tell me you've never had a bad IDLE guest?
Yeah, really. We have had some difficult, but after 2-3 days, they was okay.
Now, without using any names, how about telling me some of the difficult ones?
That was one family. They come with a priester, and they come in the winter time, and they leave us on a Sunday and say they will go to Zermatt, and they will rent a car, but they have so many collies or so many suitcases, so they come only down to the train with the car, so they have to take the train the rest. And that was Sunday, and they say they will be back Monday. And they never come back. There was Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and Thursday, and I thought, now I have to go to the police and ask after them. Friday they should go back to US. Friday afternoon, 4 o'clock, one man come running up and said, I have to pick up the rest of the luggage. And Albert said, you have first to go and give the car back you have on the station. So Albert drive out with this man and get paid. And he said it was very expensive to stay in Zermatt. I pay for this 5 days. I think that was 12,000 francs. So they have had enough money. And then we have all the luggage down on the train station, and I count that was 17 pieces. And we took it up on the front of the train, and the train was wait till we have put everything in. And when the train go away, Albert and I, we look at each other and said, no, we go home and we take a bottle of champagne.
Now, how about giving us an idea of something each of you three has experienced in Switzerland related to IDLE? Albert, you go first.
What I should tell?
Yeah, you have to tell one story. You have so many.
A story about idle people? Maybe this story, we get a couple in our apartment, and the woman, she was not so happy. We don't understood why she was not happy. Berit, she say, oh, but go down. You can speak with her. I said, no, my English is not so good to speak with people that have problems. But Berit, she gave me a bottle with cognac, something to drink, and I drew down and I spoke with them, with her, and all three we drink cognacs, 1 and 2. And so after this time, she was the most happy person, the most happy guest in our apartment. Oh,
So that was cognac therapy.
that was a cognac story I told you.
How about you, Berit?
I have a good cognac story too. Cognac is always good when you have some problem with the guest. We have had 3 couple that stay in another apartment in Saxel, and I was very unhappy. They have only 2 bathrooms and 1 shower, and they called me and said they cannot stay there. So when they have to have each 1 bathroom, and I said, you know that before we have no apartment with so many bathrooms. So I said, yeah, now they was not happy. They will go in a hotel, and I said, come to me. And I heard the woman, they speak through the men, and the men speak with me. So I said, come here to me, and we will call Hal in US. Okay. They come, these 2 men, very up, angry. Then I said, come in, you like to have a drink? And I took the best cognac from Albert again, and I give them cognac one after the other. And to the end I was so happy and said, that's okay, that's everything okay. We will speak with our wife, and they will accept all this. So they go happy back. The day after they come back again, and they give me a gift, a very nice book. So,
And after this story, my cognac bottle was empty.
Okay, Hal, it's your turn, and I know you've got tales to tell.
I've got lots of tales to tell, and I can only remember one. So I'll tell you the one I can. My memory somehow fails me in times like this. But I will. Excuse me. I will tell you about a guy who, the very first year, he came to us. We had very few guests that year. We totaled up everybody from May to October. We tried to come up with 100, but there was less than 100. So a big group that I met in the airport would be 10 or 15 people. The normal size group was 5 or 6. But at any rate, one of the groups included the guy who was the chairman of the Bank of Nevada, and his friend was the Cadillac dealer in Reno. So here's a couple of people who are, and I put them in a farmer's house in Hoflu. And I remember in those days we talked about the airport luggage service. So they were staying at the Winterberger apartment, and the Winterbergers had no car. So they came up with a car. And and then Frau Mueller came with her husband, a guy with a real old man with a mustache and a strange cap on, came with a motorcycle. What no, doof. What would I call that in English? A small motorcycle. And he had a carriage behind it. And so he put their luggage in there, and you could see the panic, and there goes our luggage behind that strange little man. We don't know where he's going. Well, I had to guide them to their house. And then the 4 people, the Cadillac dealer and the banker, had their luggage in Hans Winterberger had brought a little cart up that he pushed down the hill, and it was pretty steep down the hill from the main road. And I remember he couldn't hold that. There was all the, and he just sort of skidded in front of it, and trying to hold the luggage back, and I said, "Follow that man," and you could see the panic on their faces. And I said, "That's our luggage service." And one man with the cart up there and then going down the hill. At any rate, those people somehow, you know, with all the lights of Las Vegas are not in Hoflu, but somehow or other they had a good time, and Cadillac, the banker, came back many times and was a good friend of mine.
All right, again, starting with Albert and going around the circle here, I'd like to know what advice that you think's important would you give a first-time idle untourist?
Så en falla, fast du vet ikke en falla. Det er bare så jeg kan vite hva jeg skal maken.
I think the first I have to do to go to orientation, and they will teach them to read the schedule for a railway, and so they get many ideas for hiking, walking, railway driving, and one of the best is a walk from Brunnig to Reuter, Panorama Weg. That's a wonderful walk. And so you can look over to the most highest mountains in the Alps, Wetterhorn, Schreckhorn, Rosenhorn. They have to do this. Okay.
I will only say, you should remember you are not on a tour, but you are on an untour. That's
Okay.
all I will tell them.
That's pretty good advice. All right, Hal, it's your turn.
Well, I would really be, my first thought was exactly what Albert's was, learn the transportation system. And I like to talk a little bit about how this transportation system is part of the culture and part of their concern about doing things for the public, doing things that serve the whole society. I remember that Albert one time said that the train system was in trouble, and they had a program called Bahn 2000, which was going to bring the train system into, so it was making its own way. But they still are trying very hard and doing a pretty good job of it, I think, of making this system pay its way. And I like to brag about the Swiss attitude toward making things pay financially, but also finally serving the public. And they do a great job of balancing that. So I'd like to get them to see behind the transportation system, to see that as a part of the way of an ethical attitude toward their society and toward the environment. But also, I would say about being an untourist, try to get to see the attitudes of the Swiss people and feel part of them. Even the shopping in the grocery store can be an experience where you're rubbing shoulders with the people. When you get on the train, you feel like you're part of them. So my basic advice become part of this society. You are a temporary resident, and feel that you're now Swiss for a while.